should know that you were almost nominated for a third category. And that would have been cinematography. And I toyed and I tossed and I turned. And if I had found a couple more judges to actually assess that and we had had time, you probably would have gotten a nomination for that, just so you know. It wouldn't be right for me to kind of push it forth because there's a personal relationship here. But you should be aware of the fact that obviously your work has warranted 3 nominations right out of the gate, the very first time it's screened, which is a big deal, I think. So big congratulations to all of you, and including the cast and crew on that. I'd like to start to talk a bit about horror. I'm 51 years old and you guys are producing throwbacks. If I was privileged to see the beginning part, you're kind of doing an homage to a lot of the classic sort of stuff. So tell me a bit about your love of horror, and in particular, why reinvent the wheel in terms of old school when it comes to horror?
Well, I grew up with all the creature features on TV and the horror host that was hosting all these Hammer films and old Universal monster movies and like the Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, Godzilla. I was just a huge monster buff as a kid. And as I got a little older, like around 8 years old, when VHS first came around, around 1984, we got our first VCR. And my brother got his membership at the video store, and he's the one that actually got me into horror films. So he's pretty much the one that, I owe it to him, because all the, all the videos that he rented, I watched it. Like I got a thrill rush out of it, and I wanted more. I wanted to see more. And a lot of the movies that I watched as a kid from the 80s, early 1980s, mid 80s, late 80s, you don't get a lot of those horror movies anymore.
Sure.
And that's why stuff like this, like Whispering Hollow Road and The Monster Mash, is my love letter to the old days of horror movies that were around the 1970s and the 80s. Because back then you had dozens and dozens of classics. And what I mean about classics are, these are horror films that you don't get tired of watching. The problem with horror movies today, not that I'm saying mine is perfect or anything, but the problem with horror movies today is they lack what the 1970s and 80s used to give you, and just get right into the whole story. Get into the action. Like a lot of the films today, they have to explain everything, like if the audience is dumb. And there's no need to explain too much. Just get right into the action of things.
Well, interestingly enough, when we watch Whispering Hollow Road, you have that nice little introduction where you've got Michael in the car and the music is playing, etc. And then, of course, enter Cherry. Talk to me a bit about, we didn't get a chance to talk to a lot of filmmakers about technique. Like, let's say, for instance, you're filming in a car, you're filming a night scene in a car. There are elements and components to the filming process that don't come into play when you don't have things like that involved. So tell me a bit about the complications of setting up something like that, the physical, if another filmmaker and actor is listening to this, do they want to entertain doing this? Because I imagine the semantics of this are somewhat challenging.
It is challenging. You have to deal with weather. We had a lot of setbacks with weather.
Okay.
Pushed us back. We had to change schedules. Lighting, you really need a ton of lighting, especially when you're filming with film.
Mm-hmm.
Lighting is very crucial. Shooting outdoors, or even at first I always thought doing interior shots in a vehicle and exterior shots around the vehicle, I always thought it would be simple, but it's technically not. It takes a lot of work, proper lighting, and it's just it's really difficult, believe it or not. It seems fairly easy to go around filming around a vehicle, doing the interior shots, the exterior shots, but it's quite complicated.
Oh, I imagine.
Yeah.
I have a
and
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to jump in on that too, because the scene where Michael picks up Cherry and the whole dialogue, and then the last scene where the last gentleman picks up Cherry as well. That was all shot on a back road in a very, very secluded area outside of Syracuse, New York, where I have a studio. I have a film studio up there. And I did the majority of the location scouting for this film. And you'd be surprised how hard it is to find a road that nobody drives down, like, ever.
Sure.
And that shoot was an all-nighter shoot. We definitely started right when sun went down. And it was, when was that, September? So, I think sunset
was
was
actually
probably
the last week of August.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So early September. So yeah. So it's still kind of late days. We didn't really hit the fall yet. So I think we didn't start filming till like 9, and we went all the way till 4 in the morning. And then we had generators going. We had we had our PAs in like reflector outfits, and
we had to stop many times because we had cars passing.
Cars were coming. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to just try to find a road that nobody drives down. I didn't think we would have, I didn't think we'd get that many interruptions.
And no permits.
Yeah. The problem there is if nobody needed the road, they wouldn't build it. So you're stuck, right?
So now this leads me to a question for you.
You should come to Austria then. We always.
I'm trying to get there, Abby, so we can film. You have to film. Now that you've seen this dynamic from the horror perspective, then you should film him in that regard, because I know you're big on that. Turn him into like a zombie that's quiet and doesn't talk at all.
I'll be heading your way, Abby, for the beer.
I'll tell you what, though. Sorry, one last thing.
No, go ahead.
The car scenes where they're having the dialogue, Michael and Cherry, that looked really good. That's me behind the car, pushing the car a little bit to make it look like it's moving, but it's actually stationary.
He was humping the back seat, believe it or not.
I was like, in the back seat.
Oh my gosh.
Now,
I have a Michael question.
Yeah.
Okay, so here you are and you're in the car, and this is more of a technique question yet again. So when the viewer is watching it for the first few minutes, when you've got that intro with the music, you almost look so poised that you have the exact position of your head, and the way your face looks does not change for that entire sequence. I'd like to know, how do you do that? I mean, how do you maintain that same pose, that same look, that same style for that whole length of 2 minutes or so?
Well, you're in the character, you're in the moment. Andy's is obviously a predator. He's enjoying himself. He's taking a cruise, he even enjoys. It's not every night that's a success, obviously, or the body list would be a mile high. He enjoys the near misses. I think he enjoys the hunt. Once in a while, the big fish gets away, but he'll be back. So heading his night. It's Saturday night. Anything can happen. Just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the
Michael, I got a point.
I'm sorry, real quick. And Andrew Lakewood, the character that Michael plays, is actually a carryover from my first film, Am I Evil, which is all about Andrew Lakewood, a serial killer. So basically, Whispering Hollow Road is sort of like a sequel, but not really.
Sure, I get you.
I got to point out, Michael, I noticed something about your performance this time I watched it, and it was something really, really good that stood out. So there is a big distinguishing factor between your demeanor when you're talking to her in the vehicle and when you're outside opening up the trunk and getting your stuff ready. Like everything from your body language, from the way your face and your eyes look, and it's just like you really get to see, you really get to pull back the curtain and see the real character when you're outside of that vehicle. And I thought the contrast between those two was really well done and very subtle and nuanced and amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing about Michael is a lot of times when he's not saying anything, his eyes, his face does all the talking.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've not just this role, but a couple other similarly creepy ones. The Damage, where I did a lot of research on, John Douglas, the FBI profiler, and all that. Just the psychological profiles of serial killers, and so it came in handy here. I was really already all researched up and ready to go, but just the mentality of the predator. I mean, they are just, somebody who can hand a candy bar to a little child and seem like a kind person. I mean, that's a very unique talent to be able to do that and to turn it on. and then go back to his normal self. So yeah, that's this somebody very comfortable switching in, you know, to his fake self and his real self.
Yeah.
So Zach, I should be quiet a minute and let you talk. Go for it. Because I'm used to doing these, you're not.
Yeah.
Zach, you look like the villain in this piece here
Right?
now.
No one can see. At least Happy is in the light and drinking, and we already know what Happy does. And we can see Michelle and Kathy. Yeah, I think Kathy and who her friend Artie are hanging out watching our little screening here. Yeah, Zach, do you get any light in the apartment?
Yeah. I can turn
Anywhere?
on another one.
At all?
I'm just kind of digging. I expected him to say, "I am your father."
It was the mood for the film. That's why he was still in dark mode.
Right.
Dark mode. Okay, thanks, Zach, for lightening things up so we can actually see you're a person and a real journalist.
Sure.
And go.
Yeah, so this is the third time that I've watched this now, actually. So really enjoying it quite a bit. I think I saw you both, Michael and Cindy, sit back down after the screening, and I was going to ask otherwise, was Cindy inching away from you the further we got into this?
Okay, I'm going to give you the lowdown on this. So here's what happened. The very first time that it was that Rich sent it to me, I watched it and I cried. And then he called me and I wouldn't answer the phone. And then finally I answered and he said, well, I said, I need to tell you something. I said, I think the hardest part is I've seen him do lots of things. I've seen him kill children. I've seen him, slap women. Yeah, he's killed children. He's slapped women. He's done some things that he would never do. But, when you watch all that, that's one dimension. Anyway, I could stop, but no, those watching that is one thing. I think the hardest part is that Andrew's character, you really believe that he would really go home and enjoy the mental and physical aspects of this. So the idea of having someone that you love, even though he's an actor, be capable of doing that, was hard. So the second time I watched it, I think I was alone. Then when I went to New York, he was with me. Now, I still kind of turned away and I was like, because now I know the moment where it's going to start being a creeper. So I'm like, yeah, no. So then I'll turn like this. And then when he gets his penis cut off, then I'm like, okay, then. And we're all back now. So, it takes some getting used to. And I get it. It's just a role. But the first time was kind of a psychological issue. It was like, I just couldn't shake the whole, it was disturbing, into the, when I told Rich, he was very flattered. He's like, that's awesome that you were disturbed. I didn't think it was so awesome. I'm fine now. Like we watched it last night. We watched it with a friend last night, a dear friend of mine. I was like, okay, I know what's coming now. Frankly, what scares me? Cherry Wu. Okay. She's still scaring me. I don't understand. Okay. It's just, she's kind of creepy, but no. So that's kind of the answer to that. And I think Andy, even though he doesn't want to admit it, I think Andy kind of creeps him out a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There are people that do things like that, and I'm glad it was shot relatively tastefully. It's out there a little bit. Like with the the zinger getting sliced and all that, but it doesn't go too far where it just becomes gross or exploitive. So it was, I thought, just enough guts and gore without really spoiling the soup.
Yeah, it's crazy because you have these two monsters in the vehicle, but you realize at the end, and then there is sort of like a kind of a redemption thing. It's weird because it's like the bad monster takes out other bad monster, and like when Michael, when Andrew Lakewood gets like devoured and you see him suffer and gets his brains like ripped out of his mouth, it's like you don't know how to feel. It's like, yeah, this guy's getting what he deserves, but then it's like, but who's the winner?
I felt badly for the last guy. We don't know if he's done anything wrong.
Yes.
Right. He looked fairly innocent.
Maybe a little lonely driving by himself in the middle of the night, but that doesn't mean he deserves to get his brains sucked out, does it?
Oh, absolutely. the other thing is, to most people that don't know, and Zach, you probably don't know this, Michael has worked with Rich before on another project. So I was familiar with his work when he first came to me. So there are layers, I think, so both of you can address, or all of you can address this. You know, working with Michael the first time and the second time, these characters, to me, I do see a shade of the first character. One of the two characters you play in the first movie, I see shades of that through Andrew as well. So I'm just wondering if that was done, did you parallel them on purpose in some manner, shape, or form because you've worked with him before as an actor? And then second of all, just talk about the experience of working with one another, because usually casts will stick with one another because of some reason. And it's not just budget, but really a camaraderie or creativity.
Actually, I don't see any of Mr. Black in there. I wrote the character for Michael. So I really wanted him to be a very dark, charismatic character with an evil purpose, and he pulled that off amazingly. Even when, like I said, when he's not saying anything, his eyes, his face does all of it. I continue to work with Mike because he's just an amazing person. He's a talented actor. We get along great. We have a lot of fun on set. You know, even though sometimes they're long and grueling, Kevin can, you know, tell you that. But he's very patient, very professional, great to work with. And I would love to work with him, you know, if I continue to make other feature films. And he's just a fantastic person to work with. Really talented, very talented. He's the real deal. He deserves to be in Hollywood, this guy. He really does.
Aha, I've said that.
With all the bums and the junkies taking over, thanks a lot.
And did you notice he said the word, you're patient?
I am
You're patient.
Yes, that's what he said. Did you listen?
I don't work on the set with him. Yeah, that's a shame. And Kevin, as far as the three-way connection here, what is it that drives you to continue to make dynamic projects with them, but moreover, just want to know them on a personal level? As we all know, sometimes we go on set and these relationships don't always linger, you know, so it's refreshing to see people that want to keep working together.
Yeah, definitely. So with, I worked with Rich and Michael on the Dark Side of the Moon film. I was actually I got brought on that film just as an actor, but I think I kind of grew into it more as a producer, and I helped edit it with Rich. And then we just kind of hit it off collaboratively, like creatively and all that. But I really respect Rich for his knowledge of film, classic film, and I respect his artfulness in creating horror. Like, he really understands the medium. This is my first horror film I've ever done, actually. I come from more of like a comedy, documentary background, music videos and things like that. And I've done movies before, but I've never really gotten into horror film like this. So this was Rich's, obviously, passion, brainchild, the Monster Mash, like he's talking about before, going back to just paying homage to old school horror films in the 70s and 80s. I'm a really particular fan of 70s filmmaking and films, and the whole, I don't know what you want to call it, but the independent, so everything about 70s films, just like the aesthetics, the content, how it was really an independent filmmaker's decade. So, and, you know, that's what kind of got me on board with this project. And I wanted to team up with Rich, because I come from more of like a digital visual effects background with green screen and, you know, CGI. And I have a lot of experience with that. I'm a visual effects artist, and he's a practical prosthetic effects artist. So I figured, like, let's combine our powers and see what we can create in a film. And Michael, for him, he just blew me out of the water in the last film, acting in Dark Side of the Moon. He completely embarrassed me. We had a scene together, and
you did great.
That's when I was like, okay, I really respect this guy. He's the real deal.
Michael stole the show for Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, you better come correct if you're going to share the screen with Michael Gentile. So,
and here's what I thought I bragged about him. Holy shit, you don't need me anymore.
Well, it was tough because we were not able to collaborate on the same day. So we have this very intense, long scene, which is really the meat of the film, explaining the whole revelation part, where we're interacting with each other, but we're talking to nobody. So we had to sort of presume the reaction that we were getting, right?
I always say I would have came across a little bit better in that scene if I had you to react to it, because I probably would have got more like into it and like the you know, the awesome acting would have been contagious and rubbed off, I think.
Yeah. So that means you probably would have brought me down a notch or two, right?
No, it would have just brought me up. You would have stayed there. I would have been.
Don't you all feel in this room like we're supposed to do a whole lot of this all of a sudden? Like, oh my God, he know all that and then some. God, I'm lucky to be right next to you.
I'm just sitting here with my Milwaukee brew, that's all.
Okay, so Zach, I need to send a message, so feel free to go ahead and ask your next question. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I think this follows along nicely with the current topic. So, well, that's a question for Michael. So, you know, so there's that great quote of, you know, you stare into the abyss and eventually the abyss stares back into you. So, you know, as an experienced actor over the years, oh dear, and he's gone again. Oh well.
Excuse me.
And he's back.
Technical
Okay.
issue. This has been a real pain in the ass. I don't recommend it for anybody. Just oh, how press this button, press that button. How do I do this? Can we glom those together? Ugh. Anyway, Zachary, I am sorry.
It's okay. Just don't call me Zachary again. No, I'm just kidding. So
I just got the light.
And say I'm Pratt. So shutty.
Off you go, Cynthia.
So as you become more practiced as an actor, can you just speak a little bit to the process of, you know, stepping in and out of character, like, you know, portraying a character like this? And is it ever hard to, you know, being a decent human being, not take some of that away with you and or separate yourself, you know, from such a vile thing?
Well, once it's over, it's over. Yeah, I go back to being myself. Yeah, there's always a little spillover. I was very glad to say goodbye to this fellow. And there have been 2 or 3 of them fairly recently where I'm just like, I've had enough of this guy creeping around in my head, you know. Absolutely. You have to, you know, you have to commit to the mentality, to the role. That's the mindset. You know, you have to embrace it and let it creep in, you know. I mean, the good thing is we all have an id. We all have a murderer lurking within us. We're all capable of terrible things. Luckily, we have relatively good lives and we're nice people to begin with. But if we were starving and desperate, you know, we would be much less than we actually are. So it's really not that much of a stretch, I think. The thing with Andrew Lakewood is so much of what he does is recreational rather than for survival. So that's a whole nother element that I really wanted to get out of my head. So it's gone now, I think.
So Rich, you know, you've worked with Michael before, you know, how much directing did you have to do for him to get Andy where you wanted it to be? Was it as natural as you wanted, you know, as much as you figured it would be?
With Michael, it's never a problem. Directing Michael, he knows what to give me. Just very few direction to give Michael. He pretty much brings on the show. Michael's a stand-up guy who knows what he's doing and he knows the craft well. And there's certain things I tell him, you know, what I need for the camera, visually, the setup. Other than that, he takes off with it and, you know, goes a long way with it. He's great. There's not much I need to. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Oh yeah, no, just to piggyback there. Yeah, and that's what's great. Rich, you know, he's the writer and the filmmakers. You know, from beginning to end, it's his film, so he knows what he wants. But because of that, and he casts relatively well, let's say. So he's smart enough to know when he's getting what he wants. He doesn't try to fill your head with a lot of psychobabble or false motivations or try to freak you out and psych you out. A lot of times that stuff just makes my head spin and it doesn't do anybody any good. For me, the best directions, which is what Rich gives me, gives little tweaks. A few words, a couple of things. Let's try a little more of this, a little more of that. Like sometimes I have to say to a director, more or less. That's it. You know, like we're already in the zone here. We're in the mindset. We're psychologically there. Let's not reinvent the wheel here. You know, it just becomes a big ball of confusion. So,
like I had some rehearsals with Cherry and Michael, and that was mostly not really for Michael, but I wanted to set up Cherry's character. I wanted to make sure she knew what her character was, and that she was not this human being, but she was this otherworldly thing that we don't even know what she is. You know, she's this creature behind, you know, a human shell that goes around and does what she does along this road and picks up certain victims on the way. But the rehearsals was mainly just to make sure she had the character down right. With Michael, I just told him what I needed, and you know, he went off with it.
Yeah, it's a nice way to work.
I'm curious to ask somebody who, you know, wasn't one of the filmmakers and was watching this for the first time. At what point do you kind of get clued in that something's not right, or it's like you start to get a hint of who's like, or that Michael's a serial killer? Because for me, I think it's pretty funny, the point where he's like, hey Sky, there's a gas station right here. And then it cuts to this insanely run down, dilapidated, horrific structure that looks like
the worst one you could possibly find, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's a payphone here.
Yeah.
Now I have to say, actually, pretty early on, I was like clued in, because I mean, like Michael is so smooth in that, you know, and he's getting no response at all from that girl. Every you know, sane person would have given up after, you know, a little bit of conversation and would have just pulled back and, you know, okay, you want silence, I give you silence. But he's like, oh, do you like music? Do you like movies? Do you? Oh, I like jazz. And, I'm thinking, oh my God.
Well, I'll tell you what.
No matter if he's a serial killer or not.
For Andrew Lakewood, that was a bit of a challenge for him because he never encountered someone like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because she was way out there for him.
Yeah,
there are those people out there that won't shut the fuck up, though. That if you don't want to talk to them, you'll just be quiet and ignore them, and they'll keep talking, I think like Michael pulled that off well. Like they'll just keep going in. They always have something to say.
Yeah. I decided to make it part of the hunt. You know, just, you don't want to talk to me. Well, you're gonna talk to me eventually.
You're not gonna talk to me. Then I'm gonna talk to you, and you're gonna suffer.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. There's a comment from Kathy who makes the point. She says it was the point when you pull into the building that there was something up with Andrew. That's like the dead giveaway moment that this guy's a creep.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, there's something wrong between both of them.
I live like on a diet of horror movies, so you know, if you know it's a horror movie, you just know who's going to be the killer.
Yeah. But did you know the killer was going to be out-killed? I guess that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
No.
Gloria, thanks for finding us, by the way. She's here.
Yeah,
great. Whispering Hollow Road. So I'm bringing you all into this room because, of course, it's Michael's panel and the associated crew that's along with Richard and Kevin are here, and we just screened Whispering Hollow Road. So I don't want to keep you guys waiting anymore. So I can kind of do my job as best as possible as lumping everybody in. Now, Kevin, you had asked about somebody who's never seen the movie. Michelle's also never seen it before. So, Michelle, what are your impressions of what you just witnessed?
I just witnessed. Michael, you did a phenomenal job, and congratulations to all of you, by the way. Start with that. Pretty early on, I sensed such a creepy vibe from you. You're so subtle, so charismatic. Hey, how are you? What kind of music do you like? You were so subtle. I just felt it was like oozing off of you. I'm like, something's up with this guy. He's picking up this girl on the side of the road, and he's like, you know, you just felt creepy, and you did a phenomenal job being so composed within yourself. And then, like he said before, I think Kevin is your name.
Yeah.
How you changed. You can see the anger like coming out of you, and you were just thriving like what you were going to do next and what you did prior. So it's like you can see your demeanor just changed in an instant. And you did such a phenomenal job. And there was not much that they showed of you, but your face says it all. It reads so well on camera. I just was like drawn into this. Hearing you speak, and you are so patient and taking your time in every word that you said. You just took your time with every little question. You just sucked everybody in watching this movie. You know what I'm saying? So you did a phenomenal job. You really do. You're a brilliant actor. They hands down casted a phenomenal person for this. Your entire cast and crew who worked on it, bravo. But you really are a brilliant actor, Michael, honestly. And
Cindy,
you just like shake me to the core. You
is he blushing? Oh my God. You know what you're doing right now? He gets it every day. Here's this every day. It's the same thing. No.
But you know what's awesome is he also has a lead role in another one of the films in the Monster Mash, the one that I directed.
Oh yeah.
And boy, oh boy, that.
Oh, I know. I know. I saw that. I know.
Way over the top.
That, Michael, it was always more. What do you want, Kevin? More.
What do you play in that part? A long-haired Indian
paraplegic drug dealer.
Bravo
from Andy.
Yeah, as much as Whispering Hollow Road is a slow burn, more psychological, this is just balls to the walls crazy.
Absolutely. You know, I'm very excited to see the very tail end of it. I think that one of the most important things about this sort of movie is when everybody gets a chance to see all three components put together, it is a nice throwback to what was, as well as a fitting tribute to what is now in terms of where we're headed as far as horror, suspense, intrigue. That creepy sort of spine-tingling sensation that you get is kind of coming back and getting a resurgence, which is exciting, which is why I enjoy screening projects like this. I haven't seen something like this where it's not, you know, a jigsaw and a saw and people are getting cut up or cut apart. It's very refreshing. I don't need to say it because everyone else has. You know, when you cast a person who is so very seamlessly and so very sensationally is able to take mere words and make them into magic on screen.
Very genteel.
He's just, you know, it's hard to not really, even though I mock and say this, I am in awe of the person that sits next to me. He has done a tremendous job, but he can't do his job well, and he's said it many times, without a good cast and a good crew and support and people that understand his limitations and his love of acting. You know, so that's a credit to all of you that you have done right by him in terms of his expectations.
Absolutely true. Without the rest of the production, you're kind of doing the equivalent of busking.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously a couple of things here, because I don't want to keep our fine friends with another day in Manhattan waiting. Besides that, you're all nominees in this room. Glory's nominated. And by the way, Dixon and Michael are literally competing against one another because they're Best Actor nominees today.
We're
Glory is Best Actress. You've got
I hope you lose.
The Whispering Hollow Road folks, who of course have got a nomination for Best Musical Soundtrack, as well as obviously Best Actor and almost a third nomination.